Is at Westminster. Theresa May, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Nice to have you with us. A neighbour of mine said to me that she didn't really know what the difference was between Labour and the Conservatives. What would you say to her?
I would say that there's a very clear choice between us. Voting for Labour to get back into government is a vote for 5 more years of Gordon Brown's debt, waste and taxes, more of the same, whereas voting for the Conservatives is a vote for the change that I believe the country needs. And when we set our manifesto out today, we showed the clear difference between us in that the Labour government's approach over the last 13 years has always been that government knows best, that government has all the answers. We believe government doesn't have all the answers. No one government can have all the answers to all the problems that people are facing today. We are all in this together. There's a role for government, but there's a role for people and communities, for businesses, social enterprises, for charities. We all need to be involved in this. We all need to work together to find the solutions to the problems that we face.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you talk about devolving power, even in that local way to individuals and communities, you're not really talking about local authorities, are you?
Well, local government is part of the mix, of course. Saying that we're all in this together. It's about devolving to local government, but it's also about local government devolving to its communities. It's about saying this very simple and clear message that we trust people. We don't believe that government has got all the answers. We believe that we are in this together, and we all need to be involved in finding the answers. I mean, for example, we're not going to get the economy moving with a jobs tax and higher government spending. What we need to do is to help businesses create jobs. We're not going to change politics simply by leaving it to Westminster politicians. We need to give more power back to people to be able to do that. And we're not going to make the changes in our society we need unless we build a big society and get people involved.
Let's take one example. People vote for their local authorities. They empower them in that sense to make decisions in their own communities on their behalf. They may come up with a council tax sum which some people find unacceptable. You're saying to people, oh, if you don't like it, we'll give you the right to go and veto it. It would cause chaos.
No, it won't cause chaos. And it's about giving people the power to have that say in their local community about what the council tax would be if it's going to be above a certain, so it's going to be a particularly high increase. And it's about, in doing things that, I think local authorities responding and seeing what local people want in terms of their area. But this is a completely new sort of message that we're giving to people. This isn't a sort of manifesto that people have been used to seeing before. It's not just the same old promises from us that people normally get from politicians at elections, the same old sort of, well, we've got all the answers and it's this, that and the other. What we're saying to people is we're asking people to get involved with us in helping to resolve the issues. Let me give you one specific example in my own area, in welfare reform. We need to be giving people support to get them back into jobs. We have a real problem in this country. 1 in 5 young people is unemployed. We've got 8 million people who are economically inactive. And what we're saying is there's expertise out there in the private sector, in voluntary groups, in charities, in social enterprises. We want them to work with us to help getting people into employment.
One other precise example, if I can go after that, Theresa. Immigration, which lots of people are very, very exercised about. There is a reference there to immigration from outside the EU, and we all understand the limits on what you can do within the EU. That's quite clear. Do you think you're really dealing with this in as robust a way as people would like, given that in all these surveys we see, immigration is right up there as, if not the first thing on the list, second or third?
Well, there are a number of things that we would do in this area. And you're right that we have a proposal and a pledge that we would introduce an annual limit for non-EU immigration. And that would be based, obviously, primarily there'd be a work permit system looking at the skills needs in the country, but some other issues would be taken into account too. For EU countries, new countries coming into the European Union, we would want the transitional arrangements to be put in place. But there's some other things we think we need to do too. So we would create a proper UK border police in order to be able to crack down on illegal immigration. And we'd be dealing with issues like the student visas, the sort of bogus student visas, with some more measures in relation to colleges and student visas. And of course also requiring, for example, spouses who were coming over here, people who were coming over here to get married, to be able to speak English to a certain level.
Theresa May, I'm sure we'll talk again in the campaign. Thanks very much today.
Thank you.
Theresa May there, the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary. Now then, today, as part of all of our coverage of the election, it was the first of the BBC News Town Hall debates. Our team will be travelling across